the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a bucket list track for any driver in any discipline. This weekend, it's the home of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs, where 900 racers will do battle to be one of the 26 to kiss the bricks and take home a gold medal. Welcome to Hagerty Race Day for a brand new class as part of the 58th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. My name's John Phippen alongside Lefty McLeod. Hayward Wagner, who is down on the pit lane and on the grid. But this new class is Formula X, and it's kind of a home for some Formula cars that no longer fit in the Formula car class structure of the SCCA. And Lefty, you're much more of an expert on this than I am, but for the most part, it's Formula Mazdas.
Yeah, a lot of the former Formula Mazda class, which are the original Star Mazda chassis, they're now combined in with a few other things, including the USF 2000s, which are becoming a very popular stepping stone on the road to Indy for a lot of these young drivers.
Let's talk a little bit about the circuit that these drivers will be racing on. Of course, everybody thinks about Indianapolis as being the oval, but there's a road course on the infield, and Mazda has brought us a track map. Lefty, take us around for this one.
Plenty of these Mazda-powered Formula cars are going to be going down into turn one, and it's going to be wide spread, but they've got to get it down, and probably too wide through turns 1 and 2. Great racing through there. They'll send it around the kink of 3 to turn 4. Watch that beach on the outside there. Down into turn 6, kind of a carousel sweeper that's critical to get a good exit here as you enter 6A and then onto the Hallman back straight. To get to the end of the straight, we'll kind of bring it down again, tighten up into essentially a one-line turn 8 and 9. That's your S's. And exit off at turn 10 as they'll come back onto the banking of the main oval. Come down to turn 12. Very tricky 12. Tough braking zone right there. If you get it right, it sets you up for a great late apex off of 13 and then a strong run across the bricks down the front straight.
No other brand in North America does as much to get racers off the sidelines and behind the wheel as Mazda. And we thank Mazda for sponsoring our track map and for presenting our broadcast here for the 58th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. As we mentioned, the third member of our team is Hayward Wagner, and he's down on the grid with these drivers right now. Hayward?
We started the show by talking about 900 drivers coming to Indy. Well, we're down to 15. This is the last race of a very long weekend. The grid workers are having fun. Everybody's getting a little punchy, but these guys have been waiting their turn very patiently, and we're about to see the Formula X field roll off. SCCA never really defined what the X stands for. Some refer to as Formula Extra. Something is of X Pro cars. These are cars that have run in Pro Series. Some still currently do, and that's the case for your front row. Both of these cars are the Formula 4 or the Formula 2000 series. These guys run together all the time. They know each other really well. A couple of youngsters, but one to watch, and you got to give a shout out whenever the industry shows up. Bob Wright, back in the 90 car, sitting 5th on the grid. Bob is actually the manager for the FRP series, one of the professional feeder series, mixing it up here with some of his customers in the runoff. So we've got kids, we've got program managers, there might even be some parents in this field.
Thanks, Hayward. Again, Formula Extra. I like that. I think that's a good. I think that's a good description for these cars. In fact, the series that I normally announce, the F4 US Championship, powered by Honda, the F4 cars are eligible for this class. There aren't any in the class this weekend. They're at a bit of a disadvantage because the FIA mandated crash structures make them a little heavy, so they're not quite as lithe as some of these other cars.
Yeah, some of these later cars, if you look down the order there, you can see those single plane wings. Those are the Formula Mazdas, the old original Formula Star Mazdas that are out there. They are rotary powered in those machines. You'll see the flames spitting out of the back of those, easy to spot. The ones that Hayward referred to up on the front, there's one of our drivers right there, pole sitter, Vaughn Glace. Those guys, they're essentially running a very similar chassis to a Formula Continental, but with a very different power plant. So instead of the old Cosworth 2-liter, that is a Mazda MZR 2-liter mated to a 5-speed gearbox, but they do also have to run a spec tire where the Continentals can run the open. Continentals typically run a bias ply. Here in this class, with the F2000s, they've got to run a radial tire, so a little bit of a different construction, behaves differently, and keeps the speeds pretty comparable between these guys. There's several of those cars in this field, so it'd be very interesting to mix it up between the Formula Mazdas as well as our F2000s.
As we mentioned, this is a brand new class to the runoff structure, and because of that, 9 of the 15 starters are making their first runoff start. So we've got a lot of youth and inexperience, I would say, but some of those rookies have a few years on their belt as well. But we've got some veterans here in the championship as well. So looking for the first time for these Formula Extra drivers to take to the track, and let's see what kind of race they put on. It's kind of an unknown quantity for all of us, and we're looking forward to it. Let's take a moment to introduce the 15 starters for you as they take off behind the safety car for their formation lap. The pole sitter, as we mentioned, is the 95 of Vaughn Glace out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the Steel Cities region. He's in a USF 2000 Mazda MZR. Second is the 14-year-old phenom, number 8. That is Austin Hill out of Frankfort, Ohio, in the Ohio Valley region in an Elan DP08 Mazda. Austin is Sports Car's pick to finish atop the podium. Trevor Russell, another rookie in the 32 car in row 2 out of Tucson, Arizona, in a Van Diemen RF01 Mazda. Next to him, Tao Takaoka out of Richmond, California. In the San Francisco region, the Redline Oil-sponsored Fast Forward Formula Speed 2. Our first non-rookie in the field is Sports Car's pick to finish on the box. That's the number 90 of Robert Wright out of Valletie, New York, and the Mohawk Hudson region. UBS Financial Services sponsor his Elan DP08 Mazda. Dimitrios Zemetsis out of Mamaroneck, New York, in the New York region, out of the Global Racing Team Van Diemen RF052 Mazda. He is the winner of our Hawk Breakthrough Performer Award, awarded to the driver who makes the most improvement from day 1 to day 2 qualifying for the runoffs. He picked up 4 spots in that interval. Starting 7th is the number 5 of the rookie Avery Towns out of Allen, Texas, in the Texas region in a Star Formula Mazda. Starting 8th is another rookie, the 09 of Sterling Hamilton from Seneca, South Carolina in the Central Carolinas region, the Hamilton Family Racing Star Formula Mazda. Starting 9th, John Miro, one of the veterans in the field in the 33 car out of Bath, Pennsylvania. He is racing out of the Philadelphia region. He is the 2003 C Sports Racer National Champion in his Elan DP08 Mazda. The balance of the field are all Star Formula Mazdas. Starting 10th is the 24 of Brad Yake out of Fort Worth, Texas, and the Texas region. Mad Hatter Golf is sponsor. The number 06 is Terrence Caraher out of Arroyo Grande, California, and the Cal Club. Another rookie is the 85 of Josh Reynard out of Pittsburgh and the Steel Cities region in the Misfit Auto Works sponsored machine. Yet another rookie, the 3 of Ryan McLaughlin out of Evergreen, Colorado in the Colorado region in the Rally Build sponsored machine. And in the final 2 positions, the 62 of Steve Shelton Jr. out of Estero, Florida in the Florida region. Nitro Phil sponsors his car, and the 9 of Richie Hollingsworth out of Fair Oaks, California, and the San Francisco region in the Ibis Taylor Wings sponsored Star Formula Mazda.
So as I talked to Vaughn just a bit ago, he wanted to make sure that at least he and Austin, your front row, were mostly side by side. As Hayward had mentioned, these guys raced together in the F2000 series. They definitely have a lot of trust with each other. Seeing those side by side, that's a good thing. What Vaughn was most worried about is the guys behind him and that bit of an unknown with Trevor Russell, and then one of the more experienced but rookies is Tao Takaoka running a very odd chassis there, that fast forward formula. It's still a Mazda 2-liter behind it, but it's a very unique chassis. Not many of them exist. He does not have to run the spec tire. So you can see that car looks a little bigger than everybody else. It's because it is a little bit different. He may be a bit of a wild card there. He's got experience, just not runoffs experience.
Another driver to watch would be Sterling Hamilton in that, Avery Towns. Sterling Hamilton, I was right in the first time, in that number 09 car. He had one of his qualifying performances withdrawn because of a tech infraction, so that car may be a bit of an unknown quantity, may not be in the grid position that he deserves, so we'll see if he might make some move. But these drivers are well formed up as Vaughn Glace and Austin Hill. The 14-year-old on the outside, Glace on the inside, as they slowly bring this 15-car field around, as we keep an eye on the starter stand as they stay in line. There's the green, and everybody pops out, making it 4 wide, and Glace did not get a good start as Austin Hill gets the jump. And then coming up from the back, Takaoka having a great start as he goes right down the inside. But here comes Hill late on the brakes, and it looks like he's going to take it, but sweeping around to the outside and going a little bit too quick is the 90 of Robert Wright. But they fall back in file, but Hill with the advantage. Up into second spot is the 72 of Takaoka.
And that is the 95 there, Vaughn Glace, able to stay up with those front 3. Robert's still back there a little bit, but as what Vaughn was hoping for, at least. What he's got he and Austin Hill now. But that wild card there, it looks like Trevor Russell wants to stay in the middle of this.
Tao Takeoka in that black car in the second spot as they work their way onto the home and straight for the first time. But the 14-year-old Austin Hill at the jump. But here comes Tao as he's going to try to go side by side with him as they come down into the braking zone. The 95 right behind him of Vaughn Glace, forgive me, our pole sitter.
These kids willing to go side by side. The VSs have not seen that in any of the races out here. These kids willing to do it. And, but again, they trust each other a little bit. So now out in front there, that is Trevor Russell. I do believe he's got some F4 experience, in fact, as Russell is one of our Formula Mazdas. The red, white, and blue has gone off, but I think he's going to be able to get going again. That looks like it's down in the S's there at turn 9.
That's the number 9 of Richie Hollingsworth. But you're right, it is the 32 of Trevor Russell and his Van Diemen RF01. Followed by the 95 car of Vaughn Glace, our pole sitter. And right behind him is Austin Hill, so a little bit of shuffling at the front. Then Tao Takaoka in the fast forward Formula Speed 2.
Teo got a great jump on that original start, but all of a sudden that bigger car, it is carrying about an extra 100 pounds per min weight, had to brake quite a bit earlier than the F2000s around him and had to give up that spot as we get a good look there. That should be, I think that is the 90 of Rob Wright there at the front of that. He actually was last year's runner-up in the first year we had seen this FX class. Brought him home to a silver medal, but this year he's got a lot of youth and talent out in front of him, including a bunch of his drivers, as Hayward points out, that Robert Wright being kind of the top guy there at that program there.
Sterling Hamilton in the 09 sweeping in front up into 6th spot as we saw him coming down onto turn number 1. With the 32 of Trevor Russell at the point right now with the pole sitter Vaughn Glace in 2nd.
So again, these chassis very similar to the Formula Continentals you'll find in the FC. Some of these are in fact Van Diemen's or Elans, all essentially the same thing. Oh, we got a little bit of a move here. It looks like
Trevor Russell missed a shift, pretty sure, as that car kind of nosed over on him. And that opens the door for Vaughn Glace to get side by side. Russell's back up to speed, but they are still side by side. Glace with the inside line coming into turn 12 for the first time. As they work their way, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I say Vaughn was able to seize that opportunity to get down the inside. Russell then trying to just set up for a good run down the front straightaway. But as long as they battle, it's going to be an opportunity for Austin Hill, currently in 3rd, to get up there. Now, Austin actually was leading qualifying day 1 and day 2, and Vaughn just clipped him there on day 3. So Austin definitely has a good handle on his car, even at such a young age. Don't be surprised if he's right up with these two here in the next lap or so. You can see him just right there in that shot.
Trevor Russell getting a good draft behind our pole sitter, Vaughn Glace, as he, Glace, I keep mispronouncing the poor guy's last name. I'll get it right, I promise. As they work their way through turns 2 and 3, heading up toward the sharp turn 4, which begins the run down into the turn 5 area, the long left-hander at turn 6.
Vaughn not carrying a lot of wing. I'm looking at that rear wing element on that green and blue car there. And I think that wing is pretty flat in front and the rear, which means the straightaway speeds is just fantastic. But I think around these twisty bits, you can see the car moving around quite a bit, perhaps even a little bit more than Trevor Russell's.
Yeah, it doesn't have quite the downforce with that low downforce wing. He's got the Monza wings on that car as he comes down into turn number 7. So he maybe loses a little bit in corner speed, but again, with the long front straightaway, he feels he's got the advantage with a little bigger trap speed.
Of course, all these kids, they always grow up in kart racing, almost right out there by the dirt for both of them. A lot of them, though, they come through kart racing where they don't have any downforce. They're very used to throwing the car sideways a little bit. And that goes back to go-karts and being able to bias by these spec F2000s with a lot of radio. You have to drive a little different as we get back into the field here with one of our star Mazdas out there.
That's Sterling Hamilton out in front of the 89 of Dimitrios Zemetsis.
I got to talk to Sterling just a little bit ago before the race. He was really hoping to see a rain start in this race, as there's been a bit of it, clouds in the area. That we've had rain on and off this weekend. He was really hoping that the start of this race would have been on wets. Look at the flames spitting out the back of those rotary Star Mazdas. But he was really hoping for a wet start. Didn't get it, but definitely having a pretty good race there.
Avery Towns and John Miro right there as the 32 of Trevor Russell goes a little wide at the exit of turn 12. That gives Vaughn Glace a little bit more room as Glace gets a little sideways as well.
Yeah, I think he opportunities to get that thing sideways.
Here we come down into turn number 1. That was at turn 1.
Oh.
Trevor Russell just kept his brakes a little bit too late. He was able to get it woed down, but Glace was able to get on through turn number 2.
Well, you hear that in a lot of winged car racing, is sometimes you're the trailing car, you lose a lot of air over the front of that car, so perhaps he didn't quite get the braking that he expected as he really came up quickly on the back of Vaughn. But hasn't lost it entirely, he's able to recover, just gave a little bit of gap there for Vaughn to pull out. What it's done to Trevor, though, is he's pulled Austin Hill now right up into him.
Exactly. As Glace with the advantage, Russell in second, Austin Hill closing quickly in that Elan. Again, a 14-year-old in his first runoff start, but that's the same for these drivers as well. None of these drivers with any runoffs experience.
No, but they've got experience in a lot of other things. In fact, even for the driver there in second place there, Trevor Russell, he's actually done some spec Miata, to a spec 86 Subaru BRZ. He's done some Formula Ford, and now he's out here running these F2000s. I think he's got some F4 experience. So while they may be young, they've got a variety of things under their belt, so they're able to adapt to changing conditions as you would adapt to changing cars.
Sterling Hamilton in front of this group right now, back in 6th position, as he's picked up a couple spots. I think he got around Robert Wright. We'll see if Wright Wright's further up the road. I'm sorry, this is a battle for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th with Hamilton at the front.
Yeah.
There he is in that Star Mazda.
Gold runs a little wide, though, coming off of 13. That's going to kill that momentum down the long straightaway. It's going to hand a spot over to
Demetrius Demetsis, I believe, took it over.
I think that's going to be Avery Towns, actually. He's in another one of the Formula Mazdas.
Oh, you're right.
Just kind of watching this as the Formula Mazda sort of sub-race within the race. We talked about the different chassis involved. Demetrius was that other car that was in front of him a moment ago.
Exactly. There he is down at the bottom of the frame.
Look at all the flames. As a matter of fact, every time they blip those downshifts, you see a nice spit of flames out of the back of these.
Avery Towns and Sterling Hamilton going after it in those 2 Star Formula Mazdas.
Yeah, right behind him in that yellow. Very, very similar chassis.
Yeah, 3 Star Mazdas in a bunch there for 7th, 8th, and 9th.
So Bradley Yake, one of the second most experienced this entire field. He has 4 prior runoff starts. In fact, he even finished up on the podium in Formula Mazda, very likely the same car or one just like it back in Mid-Ohio in 2016. So they used some of that experience over the drivers out in front of him that are maybe a little bit less in the hands there of Avery Towns and Sterling Hamilton.
And behind them, another scrum. John Miro back there in the 33 car, but he's been passed by the 06 of Terrence Caraher. As Caraher, in fact, there's the 3 car of Ryan McLaughlin moving up in another of the Star Mazdas, followed by the 62 of Steve Shelton Jr.
Look at the Star Mazdas, and again, they're also on a common tire to them if they needed a little bit more time to get some heat in those, because you're also seeing them get pretty racy with the likes of John Miro, who's in one of our F2000s.
Caraher in the 06 in front of this train of cars. Miro just coming out of your shot up there.
Every time I see the flames, I just giggle.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see the different sizes of these chassis. Just a single plain wing element, front and rear on the old Star Mazdas. Multiple elements on the F2000 chassis there in the Elan for John Miro. So a very different way of making air. A lot less efficient to get downforce in the Formula Mazda. So the further they can trim those wings, the better their straight line's going to be by a lot. When you only have a single plane element, where when you have multiple plane elements, you can kind of multiple stack there. You can do some things to keep the drag down while still getting some downforce.
That's John Miro in the Elan. Very different look to it, a much narrower chassis in that 33 car. And then the Formula Mazda's right behind. There's the 3 of McLaughlin trying to go around the outside of Miro at turn 2 as we come a little further up in the pack as this battle between Avery Towns and Sterling Hamilton continues for 7th and 8th position.
Sterling had the spot just a lap or so ago, but he had run wide coming out on a 13, had to give that up. He's going to try and get back up there, but again, right behind them is the experienced Bradley Yake, a former podium finisher in Formula Mazdas. He's going to let these guys battle and hopefully sees an opportunity as down the inside takes a peek there for Sterling.
Exactly, tries to make that move, but not quite able to do it. And we go back just a little bit further to Caraher in the 06 out in front of now the 3 car of Ryan McLaughlin. As we're coming up on half distance in this race and things have settled in just a bit as Vaughn Glace out in front. Let's take just a moment to thank some of the sponsors making the racing possible here for the Sports Car Club of America.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why indeed?
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Welcome to that magic realm. Between here and there, a no man's land, and everyone's land. Where great expectations grow, and rewards are given to the swift, the perceptive, and the daring. Introducing the Mazda CX-30 Turbo with all-wheel drive. More power for your pursuit.
Welcome back to Hagerty Race Day for the 58th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs with a brand new class making its first runoffs appearance, Formula Extra. And there's a good look at your leader, Vaughn Glace, who has led pretty much from the start. A little scuffle at the beginning, but he was able to separate himself from Trevor Russell and the 14-year-old Austin Hill, and has now opened up about a 2-second advantage. Hill is another 5 seconds up the road. So Vaughn Glace looking good in that USF 2000 Mazda.
He really is. I talked to him before the race started. He looked very calm. He was just casual. He's just chatty. Actually, I walked over near his paddock area. He walked up to me and says, "Hey, how's it going?" And one of his crew guys, main radio crew guy, called, crew chief there, says, "Hey, what kind of radio protocol do you want?" And Vaughn just said, "Just give me gaps. That's all I want to know. Just give me gaps. And if you talk too much, I'll just shut the radio off." I think they got to know each other quite a bit. I don't think this is going to be their first weekend on radio comms.
Yeah, 3 different chassis in the top 3 positions. The Van Diemen of Trevor Russell there in second spot, as we can see him coming into the braking zone for turn number 12. And then Austin Hill in the Elan comes into the shot in third spot. These 3 drivers have pretty much the measure of the rest of the field, as there's almost 20 seconds back to the 4th place runner, Tao Takaoka, in the Fast Forward Formula Speed 2 out of Richmond, California. As we stay with Austin Hill coming across the yard of bricks. And then here's this great intramural battle between the Formula Mazdas. You can see the flames spitting out the back of them. Avery Towns with Terrence Caraher and Brad Yake in the thick of that battle. Sterling Hamilton there as well. Caraher a little further back, and there goes Yake making a move as he's trying to go around the 06, or the 09, excuse me, of Sterling Hamilton. But Hamilton holding strong, able to keep him at bay, but they're side by side into turn 12. Yake sweeps into the lead, but can Hamilton come right back at him? Looks like Yake has made that happen, so he's moved up a spot into 8th.
What a great move there for Yake. Just had a great run through the S's and thought, I'll just stick it down the inside. And had to make the drag race run all the way through 12, but now he's kind of giving a pretty good draft. Again, as inefficient as these wings are, they punch a pretty good hole in the air for the trailing car. And you can see right there, Sterling going to try to take advantage of that draft to get him now down in the braking zone.
Avery Towns out in front of them as his car a little squirrely, spurting flames out the back. But Yake is going to sweep across the nose of Sterling Hamilton and solidify his hold on that position.
Yeah, Yake very good on a break in there in that game of chicken, as was referred to earlier, in a very similar situation in some other Formula cars. And for Yake, able to win that match this time around. But good little battle here between Towns, Yake, and Hamilton, all kind of right there within sight of each other.
For 7th, 8th, and 9th of the 15 cars that started this. A little smoke out of the back of Yake's car.
Keeping in mind, these are rotaries.
Yeah,
They do tend to burn a little bit of oil.
Got somebody pulling off.
He's got a right front that may be damaged. I'm starting to wonder if that's John Miro. His car is a white F2000.
He was running back in 13th position.
Considering his trap speed was 61 miles an hour the last time he went by, as opposed to the 130 that everybody else is running. I think that might have been John, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, that's a safe bet, I think.
John actually was the most experienced racer in this field with 7 prior runoff start, including a championship in C Sports Racer back in 2003 at Ohio. I talked to him. He's got a lot of experience driving a lot of things, but very often he was sort of the ride for hire or a pay ride, but he never really owned his own race car. And he's at that point in his life where he decided to go pick up something for himself and thought, why not jump into one of these F2000s, as maintenance is pretty simple on them, costs aren't too bad, to get back into tuning a race car. And I'm sorry to see that John race ending early like that, but he was a good time to talk to this morning.
Avery Towns and Brad Yake both hail from Texas. Avery from Allen, Texas, and Brad Yake from Fort Worth. I have no empirical evidence to this, but I've just noticed a lot of the Star Mazda drivers came from Texas back in the day. I don't know why, but it was a very popular formula. And here comes Yake down to the inside, and he's going to take over that spot. Brad Yake on the move here as we're into the second half of this race. Yake moves up into 7th to get in front of this little group, but here comes Avery Towns trying to take that position back at turn 4, but Yake keeps him busy. Into turn 5 they go. Towns a little wiggle, still side by side. Great racing here. Yake is going to guard that inside line, but he goes a little bit wide and opens the door for Towns to come back at him. Coming into 6A and onto the Holman Straight, Yake a little sideways, no doubt. Dirt tracking it here onto the Holman Straight, but he carries his momentum. And Sterling Hamilton right there to pounce.
His car, Yake, is very strong right now. You can see even despite the slide, he just kept his foot in it, probably got right into the meat of the power band with those rotors. If you've ever raced a rotary, you know that they don't exactly have a Model low-end torque, but if you can get them revved into the right part of the power band, they scream pretty strong. And I think he might have just been right there in the right gear to be able to get that run and hold Sterling behind him.
Avery Towns there in that second spot. There's Sterling right behind him, as they almost come together in the braking zone for turn 12. As we turn our attention back to our leader, Vaughn Glace, as he is cruising along about 2 seconds in front of Trevor Russell. There's Trevor.
Trevor's closed up just a little bit.
Yeah, it's
a
down.
Couple of tenths in that last, the opening sector here, last lap. And so just got to keep an eye on this gap. And for Vaughn, as I mentioned, talking to his crew chief, he wanted to know gaps. He wanted to know deltas on times. And I'm thinking right now, maybe he's thinking just managing this race. He's still only on lap 11. It's still a long race for these guys. And probably just wants to make sure that he keeps the right gap. Doesn't want to get it close enough to where there's any kind of draft gift given to Trevor behind him, but certainly also doesn't want to either do any high-risk move or any sort of pushing the car harder than it needs to. When you've got those radial tires, you do have to manage them quite a bit, and you don't want to overheat them at any point.
Coming up to put a lap on the 85 of Josh Renard, as he is about to go a lap down, as our leader, Vaughn Glace, right behind Renard in that Star Mazda. Renard makes room for the leader to come through.
Josh probably will do the same thing for Trevor Russell here in a minute. Right back to our three-way battle of these Formula Mazdas. The battle for 7th, 8th, and 9th. Yake able to open up just a little bit of room now with Towns and Hamilton behind him. And you mentioned about, it seems a lot of these Formula Mazda drivers come out of Texas. Well, Moses Smith, who actually is operating Formula Mazdas now and managing that program, he's out of Texas, so it certainly helps that drivers who are in the areas near where his tracks or where his shop runs can get into one of these rides and have an opportunity to run one for themselves.
Sterling Hamilton got a little sideways in the middle of the S's, and that cost him some time, but he's able to close up once again under braking as Avery Towns getting a little sideways coming off of turn 12.
Sideways. That's a couple consecutive corners there for him.
Yeah, exactly right.
You wonder if he's just pushing too hard, or if something else is going on the way he's sliding around.
I wouldn't think they'd run out of tire, as these cars are pretty lightweight. I would think they'd be able to keep the tires under them for a 19-lap race. And here comes Hamilton. Towns has to go defensive down to the inside. Hamilton trying to sweep around the outside. A little bit of a braking duel. Hamilton a little later on the brakes, but not quite able to close the deal.
You saw Towns under braking. You saw a lot of flames coming out. I think he's really trying to use engine braking to his advantage. You see him blipping the downshifts and trying to let the engine bring it down and try to, maybe that's the way his brake bias is set up, so he can use a little bit of engine braking in addition to just using, instead of just using all the brakes on the corners.
It might be the MGU there as well that's getting in a little extra braking. But moving into turn number 6A and onto the Holman Straight. Meanwhile, that's allowed Brad Yake to really open up his advantage, as he's a couple seconds out in front of these two as they continue to squabble. Yake was behind them not too long ago.
Yeah, Yake was able to kind of pick each one of these guys off. Yake started this race in 10th spot.
You know, Sunoco, the official fuel of the SCCA, sponsors the Hard Charger Award, and at the end of each race in the runoffs, after timing and scoring compiles all the results, the driver who has made up the most positions from their qualifying position to their race finishing position wins that Sunoco Hard Charger. So right at the moment, Brad Yake might be a contender for that, as he was a little deeper in the back, qualified 10th, currently running in the 7th spot.
Whatever was happening there with Avery Townsend, that slide that he had through 12 and through 13 on the last lap, no such drama on this one. He does take, you can see this variety of lines. He's definitely cutting the distance coming out of 13 and through 14, whereas a little bit wider line trying to get out on the oval a little bit earlier there for Sterling Hamilton.
And Hamilton uses that to good advantage as he's able to close up in the draft. As we turn our attention a little deeper, the 06 of Terrence Caraher coming under a challenge now from our leader, as the leader goes around to put them a lap down. So now only 9 cars remain on the lead lap as Vaughn Glace continues his charge up in the front. The interval at the line over Trevor Russell still only about 1.2 seconds, but now that they're having to contend with traffic, that's going to
coming down.
Yeah, that's going to make that interval ebb and flow.
It was a 2-second gap earlier, and as I mentioned, I know that Vaughn wanted to try and manage this and keep that gap consistent, but he's struggling right now to do that again. I don't know if that's strictly just traffic or maybe his car is changing throughout this race. Trevor Russell is not going anywhere anytime soon. Picked up 2/10 in the last lap. We'll see in a second what his second time's looking like, but I would suspect he's within draft zone when they get up to that front straightaway. For a car that could be carrying a little bit more wing for Trevor than Vaughn has in his car, that's a good thing when you can catch a little bit of draft off that car in front of you.
Vaughn with the better trap speed on that last lap by almost 2 miles per hour, but the overall lap time was actually about 2/10 quicker by Trevor Russell.
Trap speed is an indication that there is a little bit more drag on Trevor's car.
Yeah, as we mentioned, Vaughn trimming that car out with, you know, just almost a horizontal upper element in that rear wing.
Tough place for Vaughn to catch the traffic. Nowhere to go. It's kind of a single line to 12 and 13, but he's now on the outside. That just gave some momentum, I think, over to Trevor Russell. Vaughn not clean, trying to get around these lap cars. That, of course, is Sterling Hamilton, and then right up in front of him is going to be Avery Townsend. He's used a little bit of draft off of the back of that Formula Mazda to try and pull a little bit further from Trevor Russell. Russell's doing the same thing behind him, using both of the Mazdas, but Trevor's going to catch those in turn 1.
Yeah, they go side by side, making it even tougher as Glace locks up the right front as he comes into the braking zone. Trevor Russell sweeps around the outside of the two-star Mazdas. Nicely done for Trevor.
I wonder if Glace right there, that's about the highest speed he's gotten in quite a while down that front straightaway, 138.8 miles an hour there. Very quick for him, and I'm wondering if he just didn't quite anticipate the braking zone where it needed to be.
Yep.
Locked it up.
Yeah, he just set the fastest trap speed of the race so far, so we'll keep an eye on that, as I think it may have caught him just a little bit unawares, as he's closing up on the back of Brad Yake, the 7th place runner. And Russell definitely closer now, as it's under a second last time across the stripe. Glace down to the inside at turn number 7 of Brad Yake.
This is where the maturity of these young drivers really comes into play, is how well do you manage the traffic to get through, because you got a driver like Yake in front of you there. Very strong, very experienced driver as well. And he's doing everything he can to run his own race, but when those leaders come up, he doesn't have to move aside, he just has to kind of be consistent and hold his line. But these passing drivers, Trevor Russell and Vaughn Glace, these guys are really that maturity of pick the spot, don't get nervous, don't do anything extreme, just know that you're going to get by, and then as hard as it may be for you, it's probably going to be the same for the other guy.
4 laps to go as they come across the line in this inaugural running of Formula Extra at the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Let's check the interval at the line.
1.3 as they came across the stripe that time, across the bricks as they came across there. 1.3 seconds between them. So just ever so slightly coming down. And for Trevor Russell, he lost about 0.5 on that last time. He was under a second, but that traffic, especially that traffic going into 1, cost him a little bit of time. And now with just a handful of laps to go, he's got to go back to work, get this thing into draft zone.
Glace and Trevor Russell well out in front of Austin Hill. Austin Hill was running right with him as that trio dicing it at the early stages of this race, but Austin Hill has just gradually dropped off the back of this battle. He's about 8 seconds up the road.
He's run a couple of good laps, but I think he's also hitting that same traffic as these guys out in front of him, or perhaps catching the traffic at some bad times. Not able to close up on the front two leaders.
As we look at their best lap times, they're all very close, but Glace about a second quicker with a 138.8 as his best lap.
Watching Glace and Russell the last time through Sector 1, nearly identical, 51.7s. Go through Sector 2, about a 10th quicker for Vaughn. See as they come around for Sector 3, getting any kind of a good run there for Russell will get him a little bit closer. He might be able to start feeling some of that draft.
Glace with that trimmed out car has got the extra trap speed and able to stretch that advantage. This time across the line, 1.6 seconds. As these two in the final couple of laps.
Back on the lockup, that's what Trevor Russell needs, is Vaughn Glace. A little bit of lockup again, going into one. Second time we've seen that.
Yeah, locked up the left, or the right front this time, was left front the last time, so he's an equal opportunity front tire lockup.
He's having a bit of a brake bias change throughout the race as the weight of the car changes, burning fuel, as well as the tires, changing as the temperature changes, changing the balance of the car a little bit. If he is running a little less downforce, kind of the same idea. It's a little tougher to find that threshold braking.
Do these drivers have any cockpit adjustments for like roll bars or anything like that? Or
yeah, I do believe they do. So they'll have a sway bar adjustment they can make. Obviously, I think a brake bias adjustment they should also be able to make on the fly.
So they can make a little fine tuning to get the car more to their liking as the fuel load burns off.
Yeah, in that regard, it's very much like, well, a lot of these chassis are very similar to the Formula Fs. Those guys are always doing bar adjustments mid-race as that balance changes. Oh, we've got one of the cars stopped on track. That's the 85 of Josh Reynard.
Yeah, he had a spin earlier. Looks like, spun by himself, we're told, but he's able to get it rolling again.
Got it fired back up as it is a rotary. There'll be lots of flames spitting out the back once it actually is running.
Meanwhile, back at the front, Vaughn Glace.
Vaughn just put in a 10th quicker in the first sector, 2 tenths quicker in the second sector. This lap, I think his radio guy said, hey, Vaughn, a little bit too close for comfort. You got to go. Trevor's going to have to respond now with just 2 more times around.
Yeah, exactly. Working race lap 18, they'll see the white flag next time by as they come down into turn 1. That Glace looking very smooth. Smooth as glass that time. No lockup.
Well done. I was wondering about Vaughn because earlier when the traffic was there and he had a lockup, sometimes you can flat spot a tire, and I wonder if that's what happened the next time, is he got a little bit of that flat spot, seems to find its way right back to that same spot, this time a little bit smoother on the brakes.
The tire gets a little D-shaped, as you can imagine. Every time you put the brakes on, that flat spot wants to get a little flatter. But he's smoothly through 6A and onto the Holman Straight. More traffic out in front.
Driver doing a great job of just trying to stay out of the leader's way, recognizing in the moment he's just going to pull off, and he'll get a good little point by right there. His point by is on point to get one of those track night references therein. But very well done. Don't want to interrupt the battle that is going on between Vaughn Glace and Trevor Russell.
Exactly. That was Josh Reynard, who we just saw recovering from his spin, doing the point by. As our race leader coming to the white flag. Another little touch of lockup there at the exit of turn 12.
But Vaughn is managing those very well. It's a little bit of lockup. He gets back out of it. He knows he's got a bit of a buffer. He's not quite giving a draft to Trevor Russell. He just knows he's going to be seeing this white flag this time by, and just another 2.5 miles around before he can roll across the bricks and grab a checker.
White flag is in the air for our leader and pole sitter. Vaughn Glace fell back just a bit at the very early stages, but eventually able to take command. And he has got some traffic right in front of him.
It does, and that is going to hurt a little bit. The traffic trying to do their best to get out of the way.
That's Demetrius Demetsis in
That's his
6th
teammates,
place. Yeah,
actually,
exactly.
yes.
So now only 5 cars remain on the lead lap as Demetrius goes
And
along.
I'm sure Demetrius did not want to be anywhere near this right now. He did really, not really his race, and did not want to be interrupting Vaughn's momentum.
So Demetrius might be making that car a little wider for Trevor Russell, who has to get by him as well, realizing that they're on the final lap.
Yeah, very respectful. As he's just going to hug that side and just stay out of the way. Maybe even just give a little bit of a draft there to Russell down the straightaway.
Then he'll pop to the inside as they come down into the braking zone for turn 7. Through the S's for the final time are these top 2. Vaughn Glace with the situation well in hand at this moment. Oh, but he drops a couple wheels wide. Commentators curse, I need to stop talking about him. As they come through turn 11 for the final time and up into the brake zone. And this is where Glace has been known to show a little bit of tire smoke, but this time he's clean. If he gets through turn 13 successfully, I think he's pretty much on his way. As with the straight line speed that car has shown all race long. Here comes the first championship on first try for Vaughn Glace as he'll take the double checkered flags. The medal for second to Trevor Russell. As Vaughn Glace celebrating his first gold medal, and there in the bronze will be Austin Hill, the 14-year-old out of the Ohio Valley region.
I believe that's 3 rookies on the podium.
Exactly right. Now, I don't know that we've done that at all this year.
I don't think so. Not this year.
Hey, and this battle is going to go right down to the wire. That's Brad Yake and Sterling Hamilton, and Hamilton's going to eke it out at the line. Hamilton will come home in 7th spot, drafting by Brad Yake at the stripe.
Like Al Jr. and Scott Goodyear right there at the finish.
Exactly. Well done to him.
Hope I got that reference right.
You did. Ryan McLaughlin comes home in the 9th spot. Terrence Caraher in 10th in the 06 car. But they're your top 2 finishers. Top 3 now all together as they're coming around on their cool down lap.
Well, I have a feeling that the Mazda wine is going to be given to the parents of these 3 young men.
I think you're probably
the parents
right.
Can celebrate as these guys might get a little bit something a little less potent for their celebration.
I think the Mazda, the official sparkling wine of the SCCA runoffs, does have a non-alcoholic variant for these young drivers. I know we're accustomed to that in the F4 Championship because none of our drivers are of age, so we have to use a non-alcoholic sparkling beverage for the celebrations. And now that the COVID restrictions have been released, we're finally able to do that again, which is fun.
Well, I haven't met a couple of these guys here before this race started. I've been really impressed by their maturity. These guys are the maturity of their driving skills, and I think when we see them interviewed here at the end, I think you'll all agree, very mature even in front of a camera and a microphone. These kids are well on their way. This F2000 series, now part of the Formula X class, is very much a stepping stone for drivers who maybe eventually want to get into a pro career. And these 3 young gentlemen here are certainly a good representation for the SCCA as their careers move forward.
Yeah, and and we talk about them being inexperienced racers, perhaps at this level, but many of them have been racing go-karts since they were 5 years old.
Yes.
So they certainly have plenty of on-track experience, and this is just the next step up into a full-size race car.
Yeah, all of them have a lot of go-kart experience between these 3.
Exactly right. There's your second, third, and first place finisher as Vaughn taking his time on the cool down lap to savor his first.
No, he can savor this one or he can savor the next one.
Yeah, either one. Yeah, absolutely.
So he'll get to go do it again, this time waving that checker flag.
And he is he's trying to go back to the paddock, but he says, no, dude, you've got a podium to contend with. So Vaughn showing his inexperience at the runoffs level. Not quite sure what to do. Now Hayward is directing him into the correct spot as he is parked behind Trevor Russell. So Hayward's going to bring him up to get a nose in front.
Great shot
right
there
on the yard of bricks. Absolutely. So Vaughn Glace get himself unbuckled, get the Hans device off and his helmet off so that we can see his smiling face, and Hayward Wagner will have an opportunity to interview him. There's your celebration, just what you would hope to hear. Hayward giving him a few pointers on getting that helmet in the Hans device.
You know, when you win a championship and a gold medal, getting that helmet off is just a little bit more difficult to get the hands steady enough to undo the strap.
You can see those hands a little shakier for the winners as they've just come through a bit of a gauntlet. The medal is in place. The Hoosier collar about to go on. And let's send it down to Hayward Wagner with our winner of Formula X.
Vaughn, you had to wait all weekend for your turn, but you finally got to get on track and you made it count. How's it feel?
Yeah, it was a long time coming for sure. It's, you know, it's kind of, there's a lot of intensity watching everybody else go around, and we're always studying, looking at where the grip is on the track from the TV, but you know, you don't know until you know, and it all paid off. Yeah.
More or less, you got to manage a good chunk of this race. How focused did you have to stay? Were you intense the whole time, or were you able to back it off a little bit?
It was pushed the whole time. I was dealing with a ton of understeer. Came in about halfway through. I think one of our uprights is backing out again. So the whole characteristic of the car was changing, and you know, I had to change my approach pretty much every lap. It was interesting for sure. It kept me on my toes.
Well, congratulations on a national championship. You get to do one more lap at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Vaughn Glace, your winner, as he's going to take a celebratory victory lap. But we've also got two other podium finishers to talk to, Trevor Russell and Austin Hill, standing by, and we'll get them wrangled. And
yeah, just him talking about managing that race as the car seemed to be going away from him. Other than a couple of brake lockups, you really couldn't tell the car was any worse for him. But on the inside, it was a lot of work to keep that thing going straight to hold off a hard-charging Trevor Russell.
And he is down there with Hayward Wagner.
Trevor, a clean race, a podium finish. How does it feel to be here at Indy?
Feels great. I can't believe what I've done, and I couldn't do it without the help of my parents and Indy Motorsports. All my fans out there really helped me along.
Well, congratulations on the silver. We're going to go ahead and bring up Austin. Austin, you chased this guy as hard as you could. Does it feel pretty good to come up third, or is this a little disappointing?
It's a little disappointing, but I mean, we did all we could. We sort of were hoping for rain, but it didn't happen. But in the end, we still got a podium. We're still happy with it.
It's not terrible to take a bronze at Indy, is it?
No.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hayward. You know, it's a great thing. The SCCA is a graying organization. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of veterans in the club, and a lot of us, but it's so gratifying to see three kids on the podium, and kids is the operative word. There's some youngsters that are coming up through the ranks that are going to be the stars of the future.
They make us proud as we see this youth come along. And these three kids put on a great show. And again, they're going to be great ambassadors for the SCCA, whether they stay and come back to the runoffs for the next 58 years or whether they decide to go and have pro careers, wherever they end up, they're going to be fast.
There's your results for the second ever Formula X race at the runoffs level. Last year was the debut. Vaughn Glace, your winner by a 2nd and 3/10 over Trevor Russell. Austin Hill fading about 10 seconds further back for third. And then Tao Takaoka almost a minute back in the 4th spot. Robert Wright closing at the end. Robert finishing in Formula X second on the podium last year. Demetrius Demetsis a lap down in 6th spot. Sterling Hamilton, after a race-long battle with Brad Yake, eked out that 7th place finish at the end. Yake coming across 8th. Ryan McLaughlin and Terrence Caraher rounding out the top 10 positions. As we go to the highlights, the initial start was a pretty exciting one.
Great jump by Tao Takaoka in that red car, but unfortunately for him, when he gets to the end of this straightaway, he had to hit the brakes, and his car is just that much heavier than those around him, and you can see him now saying, all right, well, I'll let the three kids get out in front and see if I can manage behind me. And right there you can see Vaughn slipped a little bit early in this going, but able to get it back. He and Trevor Russell working around Austin Hill. And then for Vaughn, had to go and find a way to get around Trevor. Took him a lap or two, and they had a pretty good battle. But this opportunity he seized going through turn 10, gave him the drag race, gave him the inside line, and then he was able to not look back. He just had to manage that race car for the rest of this race. You can see right there how much struggle he was having there. A lot of lock up there, working through traffic, had it again on the subsequent lap, but still able to manage, able to bring that car home. You can see the fist pump in the air across the bricks to take that checker flag in his first national championship.
And congratulations to Trevor Russell and Austin Hill for completing the podium as the youth movement is alive and well in SCCA Runoffs competition. As you can see, our winner climbing out and celebrating his first national championship. Let's hope it's the first of many. So with the clouds gathering over the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we thank Mazda for being our broadcast presenter for all of our coverage here at the 58th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. For my partner Larry McLeod and Hayward Wagner down in the pit lane, I'm John Phippen. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you down the road.
Welcome to that magic realm. Between here and there, a no man's land, and everyone's land, where great expectations grow, and rewards are given to the swift, the perceptive, and the daring. Introducing the Mazda CX-30 Turbo with all-wheel drive. More power for your pursuit.